We're starting the bigger project this week. So you want to remember your goal. This is not a marketing class. We are not dealing with marketing and capitalism and selling products at all. What we're looking at instead is what choices are made by content creators that inspire the audience to want to like or to want to comment. We don't care what they say in the comments because that's more work than we can possibly take on. If you wanted to do an analysis of the comments, I know that sounds redundant, but comment is used differently there. You're looking at a thesis level project, not a couple week class project, because it's so much, it's so dense and it's so rich and there's a lot going on there. So you don't have time to analyze the comments that are left, but you can look at the publicly viewable data. How many likes, how many views, depending on which website or which social media site you look at. So views for YouTube, Instagram doesn't really show views. What is publicly available? And again, what information is that providing you about what is important and meaningful to the people following that account? Why are they choosing to engage with that particular post? Okay, so there's a whole video on this particular project. I just want to remind you over and over, our goal here is not marketing. We don't care what sells more products and what doesn't. We don't care. I know that so much, and this is a part of what makes this project so important. So much of the conversation about content strategy and so much of the research about content strategy looks at gigantic, huge, big name influencers and is like, how much money do they make? And then let's trace that back with content strategy. But that's only one person. There are a million people attempting to influence in that same industry that have decent salaries based on the influencing that they're doing. They're not at that level. They're not as big. Maybe they don't want to even get that big. We're not asking the right questions. Like, content strategy is about so much more than just making money, and that is our focus. How are the choices that content creators making creating community? And how do we see that in the publicly viewable data that we can collect? And then what is that telling us? What are the patterns? What is the community? What are they responding to? Why are these choices being made? We don't know what's in the head of the content creators. We don't know what's in the head of the audience, but we can make really educated guesses when we start to piece together the pieces of information that are publicly available to understand, why are people following this? And why do people find it interesting? And what is making them not just follow and not just watch, but like? I mean, think of all of the times that you've scrolled past something, or Facebook's trying to tell you something, or Instagram's trying to get you to watch a video, and you're like, okay, I'll watch it, but I'm not going to like it. Moving to like is an added layer of behavior, and your name's now associated with it. And all of your friends who might be following that same thing can now see that you liked that video. So it's really conveying significantly more information than just scrolling. What is it conveying and what is it saying? But again, it depends on the social media site, which is why you have to pick a social media site, and you pick just one, but you're gonna have 3 content creators. Okay, last piece, because I know this video is getting long. There are 3 parts to this project. You have the content analysis. You're gonna follow 3 content creators who are all creating content for the same audience. So 3 mommy bloggers, or 3 fashion influencers on Instagram. I'm trying to pick ones that I don't think that you all are gonna pick. They need to have that same audience focus. I love the national parks, so I could follow 3 different national parks and say, what is their content strategy? That one might be doable. You could look at Instagram, Facebook. In all of the cases, and it's just a little bit more obvious with TikTok, the algorithm of the site influences a lot of this, and it influences what you see and when you see it, you being the consumer, the person actually using it. And that's just not something that we can deal with. It's not something that's beyond the scope of this class, but that is a piece. We want to look at, of the things that are being viewed and of the things that happened, what's going on with them. Are there huge disparities in the number of likes, or are they pretty steady? Does time of day influence or not? Lots of variables in there. So you start by selecting who the 3 content creators are and on what site, and then you write your question. Your research question needs to ask a question about and focus on or center content strategy. So what choices are they making in hashtags? What choices are they making in depicting faces? What choices are they making in storylines? What choices? There are a lot of different questions you can ask in there to understand how the audiences respond to the content strategy decisions of the content creators, so that you can add something academically about the ongoing conversation around content strategy. The second part of the project is the How to Write Guide, and that has two parts to it. So that is part 2 and part 3 of this overall project. So the How to Write Guide takes the conclusions from your content analysis and it writes them in a how-to guide, which is why it's how to write, so that future content creators can use your strategies to have better content strategy. And then you need to show examples of content that you have created just for this project of those tips and tricks in action. That is part 2 of the How to Write Guide. So the How to Write Guide is 1, a little introduction, a little bit of situating of what you mean by content strategy, and then tips and tricks about content strategy for existing content creators who are creating for the same audience that you have analyzed, because your tips and tricks are only good for that audience and that community. And then the second part is sample content to demonstrate your tips and tricks in action. And that's 3 parts of this project. Okay, if you have questions about this, send me a note on Tumblr, send me an email, or stop by office hours. I'll see you online.